Hey everybody, welcome down to Miami Gardens for Rapid Reaction. It's brought to you by Byers Auto. The college football playoff national title game, a wrap on Monday night. Alabama is the national champion, and really it wasn't even close in the second half. 52-24. The Buckeyes traded some punches early on. Looked like we might be getting some of that high stakes back and forth battle that I think many of us expected, and then Alabama just put their foot down. Injuries mounted. Ohio State missing some key guys, but they won't make any excuses about that because I'm not sure that it would have made a difference in a game that was won by this margin. So this trying, challenging, unprecedented season comes to an end for Ohio State. One game short of the ultimate goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I expected a haymaker bowl is what I was calling it all along. And when it was 14-14, I'm thinking I'm getting exactly what I expected, especially after Baron Browning caused that fumble and Ohio State converted it, and they're back in the game. But from then on, it just seemed like Alabama just had too much, man. I mean, this was a great example of a bunch of great players coming together, maybe for just 1 year on Alabama's side, and having a great quarterback, in my opinion, Mac Jones leading the attack, and just really dissected that Ohio State defense.
You ever get in trouble when you were a kid and your parents would be like, don't make excuses, and you're like, I wasn't making an excuse, I was making an explanation.
Yes.
Okay? The Buckeyes have excuses if they wanted to use them, but there are explanations too. The Buckeyes were out-schemed tonight. They were out-coached. Steve Sarkisian toyed with Kerry Combs. The Buckeyes were obviously shorthanded. You down two of your best defensive linemen in a game where you absolutely had to get pressure on the quarterback. But then you also have to just give credit where credit's due. The Davey O'Brien winner, the Doak Walker winner, the Bolitnikoff winner, the Heisman winner, the Joe Moore Offensive Line Award winners.
The Maxwell
Trophy. This is the
winner.
Best offense in college football for a reason, and the Buckeyes knew they were going to have to come out and take shot for shot with them. And when you lose your second best weapon on offense in the last month, combine that with the fact that you have only played 4 games in the last 2 months, and I just don't think that maybe you just can't be ready for what Alabama was bringing with everything that they have with everything else that the Buckeyes.
Yeah, that's why I
have to
asked
deal
Tough Borland after the game, is this an aberration? I mean, this was a collection of stars on Alabama's side. Was this an aberration? Or, of course, he's now out of college football, but, or is this what's coming down the road? Steve Sarkisian going to Texas, et cetera. And I think you do have to have that collection of stars because, Ohio State was pretty close, but like you just pointed out, when you lose Trey Sermon on the first play.
I think it's kind of a reminder of, some of the what-ifs that we talked about when Ohio State's season ended last year. That was a collection of stars with Chase Young and Jeff Okudah, Damon Arnett, which is building into what the problem was tonight. Ohio State did not have the opportunities to build depth in the secondary. They had issues from game 1 through game 8, and you take Cameron Brown out of the equation. They also had 2 guys who were with veteran experience who were kicked off the team back in February. Another blow to the depth. I think sometimes that was forgotten about this year as well. Trying to play maybe guys out of position and scrambling a little bit. Marcus Williamson is not a safety. He tried his best and he did some really good things against Clemson, but those 7 games were not enough when you should have had twice as many, and you still might not have been able to stop Alabama.
Right. That's
Again,
something I said earlier.
The
Even the Buckeyes at their very best tonight may not have been enough to beat this Bama team because this is a great team. But if you look at the difference, Ohio State lost Jeff Okudah, lost Chase Young, lost J.K. Dobbins. All those guys came back for this Alabama team. I mean Najee Harris, who would have been a first-round pick last year. Devontae Smith would have been a first-round pick. Jalen Waddle would have been a first-round pick. Alex Leatherwood would have been a first- or second-round pick. These guys all came back for this. And so I guess for me, I'm wondering or hoping for Ohio State that a lot of these guys that have decisions to make maybe look across the field tonight and see what it took to get this done.
I think that's the number one question because, a game like this, we're sitting up in the press box and it was over for a while. Ohio State came out and, as I've said, it was a 14-14 game, 21-17. They scored that touchdown, great touchdown catch by Garrett Wilson. You thought, okay, well, maybe it's not over yet, but they never seriously threatened. So there's not a lot to really break down about what happened beyond that on Monday night. And Ohio State's offseason now could be a hell of a lot more interesting because of the things that you talked about with the roster decisions, how many guys will want to come back for him. It'll not be just that. Urban Meyer is almost certainly going to take the Jacksonville coaching job, and he may be coming to raid Ohio State of some key personnel guys, including on the coaching staff, This week could set the course for the future of the program. And all Ohio State really wanted was a chance to exhale, be done with taking daily COVID tests, play for a national title, maybe win it. And now these next couple of days could be a much more interesting. Obviously, this is always going to be the case when we play in this game for NFL draft decisions because the deadline. I don't understand why, especially if there's no combine this year, why anyone would have to decide by next Monday. But you have NFL draft decisions, coaches who are going to be pursued by Urban Meyer to help fill that staff potentially this week, and then Ryan Day is going to have to potentially make some moves as well. That's a lot to handle right now.
Like Ryan Day was talking about after the game, he'd like a moment to exhale, and I'm not sure that moment is coming immediately for him, and for his coaching staff, who's coming, who's going, who's staying, etc. But I'm looking back at this game tonight. I really expected Ohio State to be more effective offensively based on what I'd seen from Alabama's defense through the season.
Yeah.
This was not the greatest Alabama defense, but they made some key plays tonight to get those stops. That was the gold standard in this game from a defensive standpoint, was one team or the other was going to get stops and throw the other team out of sync. That's exactly what Alabama got from its sometimes maligned defense this year. And Ohio State, forced a 3-and-out finally, when it didn't really matter, and then ran into the punter, but Alabama didn't take the penalty. My point is, there's a long ways to go on the defensive side of the ball for Ohio State to get back to big-timeville. And like you said, if some key players leave offensively like you expect them to do, next year's going to definitely fall into that rebuilding mode.
I don't know that it has to, and a lot of those decisions start on Tuesday. Josh Meyer said he's going to be making his decision on Tuesday. Haskell Garrett's decision is coming. If Haskell Garrett returns, and Tommy Togiai returns, and Tyreek Smith returns, you have a pretty good defensive front to bring back. They're going to need losing their top 4 linebackers. But, going to the game itself, like we talked all week about what tempo would Ohio State come out running. And maybe losing Trey Sermon on play 1 changed the tempo, but it seemed like they really had no idea what they wanted to do with the offense. They hurry to the line of scrimmage, clap, and then take a step back. And multiple times they had Bama kind of on their heels, and it was just a very discombobulated group.
Yeah, the 4th and 1 run to the edge, in the game, there was still a little bit of a shot.
Well, that was the end of the game.
That was the end of the game.
For all intents and purposes.
And I think when you're looking at this, and Master Teague runs extremely hard. And when he gets down by the goal line, you're not going to deny him. But he is not the same. He does not have the same vision. He does not have the same explosiveness of Trey Sermon. And that's why Marcus Crowley was in the game at times tonight. You could tell that Ohio State knew they needed something else in the backfield than what Teague could provide them. There was that whole, I don't remember if that was in the start of the third quarter or the second quarter, Tim.
Yeah. But you and I were talking about it.
The was right there to the left.
Oh, my
Master
gosh.
Teague just only went one way into the line, a couple-yard gain when, it was the kind of run that we saw Trey Sermon take out the gate and all the way for a touchdown. Again, I'm not saying that to knock Master Teague. He's just never done anything like what Trey Sermon did. And to lose him on the opening drive had to change things. And I thought that Ohio State would go with much more tempo, like you said, Byrne, because the teams that have had success against Alabama have played with 2 tight ends, and they've gone really fast.
Well, you saw what they could do in the second half when they opened it up into the passing game a little bit, rolling Justin Fields out, looking for the Olave and Garrett Wilson on the outside. That really was where the offense was going to make hay today. And again, I don't know. The last time I watched Ohio State lose a very important player on the first play of the game in the national championship game ended up similarly 41-14 in 2007. So again, we get to know these kids, and I don't know if you saw Jonathan Cooper at the end.
I saw him. Last one off the field. He's just sitting there.
He's sitting there watching that celebration, and it sucks, man. Like these are kids, and I know that for a lot of people watching, this is life and death, but it's really their life, and it's you hope that the kids that are coming back do what they did to Clemson. That they find that motivation. I don't think you're going to have 52-24 written all over the walls of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, but it's a humbling ending to a season that has provided piece after piece after piece of humble pie.
Yeah, and sometimes life's lesson is the other team is just better than you. That was clearly the case tonight. Agreed?
Yeah.
I mean, right from a scheme, as we talked about a while ago with Steve Sarkisian, I thought Alabama did some really good things defensively to get pressure on Justin Fields in key moments. But I always thought Ohio State's best shot was to come in here and throw like 40 passes or so, with Trey Sermon augmenting that.
Yeah.
They didn't even get to that aspect of it because of the disjointed nature of it. But, what a season to remember. They still got to the championship game against a team everybody thought they would play in the first place in this championship game. And it's such bittersweet kind of feelings right now, because the 2020 season is now over. A season at one point it did look like Ohio State was even going to have a chance to have. And it's weird that it ends like this, almost like a huge disappointment. But a bigger disappointment would be starting your season next week.
But that's the problem. That's the problem with being a sports fan, I guess, is pretty much everyone's year ends sad. And that's the way it goes. And it shouldn't erase the ability to look back on watching Justin Fields play at Ohio State and think that you saw something truly special. I mean, it didn't end the way he wanted, for sure. Sean Wade even was talking. I mean, obviously he played pretty rough again. And he was talking in the postgame about, hey, maybe he'll come back again because he doesn't want this to be the way it goes out. But hopefully for those people out there watching and listening, that this season, for everything it took to make it happen, has allowed you to have some moments of normalcy in your life.
It was anything but normal. I mean, just covering this year, I can't imagine what it was like for Ryan Day and the coaching staff and the players to be in it on a daily basis. But it's just, there was no rhythm to get ready to go cover a game. Berm, you and I drove to Illinois to get ready for a game in November, and Ohio State never made the trip. They couldn't get on the plane. That was when the outbreak started.
10 o'clock at night, game called.
It's been incredibly bizarre, but the alternative was 0 games in August. So I hope I guess there's some solace or there should be for Ohio State, for Ryan Day. They've got a 4th consecutive Big Ten trophy. They've got a ring, some celebration, or a trophy, whatever you get in the Sugar Bowl. They're going to have some championship rings. They're going to have a couple pieces of trophy, some hardware, and they're going to be back next year. Like, whatever happens with the NFL decisions, whatever happens with the coaching staff, this is still going to be one of the most talented rosters in the country.
Oh yeah,
they're still going to be the favorites in the Big Ten. There's no reason to panic about what happened. I sound like Brian Kelly when I say that. Like, don't go jump off a bridge. Like, nobody was beating Alabama.
No.
There's no need for an asterisk or anything. This is the best team.
I just hate to see Wyatt Davis limp off the field. I mean, that's unfortunate. Trey Sermon with his situation, etc. Those are the guys you really feel for, because they didn't get to give that final big punch. Even though when Wyatt left near the end, I think it was near the end of the first half, things were kind of well in hand at that point, but they still had some shots. But you're right. I mean, what sticks out to me is the way Justin Fields played against Clemson 11 days ago. One of the great quarterback games ever. It's definitely by an Ohio State quarterback. And winning that Big Ten championship, hard-fought Big Ten championship, but finding a way to win a 4th straight Big Ten championship, like he pointed out. Yeah, there are memories here once you get past the cloud.
Anything else, Berm?
Nope.
There's going to be a lot more coverage, obviously, in the days ahead as we unpack what happened on Monday night in the title game, and Ohio State starts laying some of the foundation for that 2021 season, which will hopefully go a lot more smoothly and more normally. We'll see. There's still some ways to go there, of course. That's Tim May and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Oscar Ward. Thanks so much for everybody following along with our coverage all year as they turn the lights out here on Hard Rock Stadium. That means it's a good time for us to go as well. Thanks again for following along at LettermenRow.com.